Apologies if you got some weird clapping noises coming through. Hopefully I managed to mute that in time. PVZ, dude. Probe, the prodigal son of Australia, New Zealand, and Southeast Asia. Our Protoss hero and hope, who's been going through a little bit of a rough patch recently, not qualifying, being eliminated by Ryan Premier League NXZ Jones last season at the IEM Sydney Regional Challenger. And not being able to make it out of his group at Austin. So, Probe, he's had a few near misses recently. He did come off a pretty decent result over at the Psystorm Cup and is happy to be back in Australia playing here with a nice, good connectivity to the AU server. I think he's at home in Melbourne right now.
Oh, good. Well, then his ping will be pretty lovely. That is the big story for this, is that Crimson has been working so very hard. He's a very, very, very long-standing player here for the region. He's been around since day one, and a lot of people call him the uncle, the old man of the scene, even though he's not actually that old. Just because he's been around for so long, and he's just such a mature figurehead, someone that a lot of people look up to, is just a very sensible guy with a really good mindset. And Probe, of course, he's that kid, he's that young player. He's like Rocky in Rocky 1 and 2 before he got older in 3, 4, 5, and 6 and 7. But Probe is still that young buck. He's still got age on his side. He's full-time. He's really dedicating himself to StarCraft. And he has, for a long time, enjoyed that moniker of the best player in Australia. At the bottom right here, that is the man in question. Legacy Esports' Probe.
Yeah, looking to take that play to the international stage throughout the last year, and he's done it very well. Up here in the top left-hand side, a mainstay of the scene, clever Zerg player from New Zealand, representing SYF, is Crimson.
So how's Crimson's playstyle in ZVP? I know he's one of the guys that's used to... it didn't really jump onto that Hydraling Bane train that a lot of Zergs were doing in every single matchup. He just sort of went for... it still relied on roaches a little bit. In fact, I'm seeing it a little bit in general. ZVP is switching back into having those roaches in the early stages of the game. They just seem to have a lot of utility against that very, very almost, you can just blindly expect that Archon drop charge lot thing.
Well, that's why I think we're at such a funny point in the meta right now, is because that did become so standard, right? The Archon charge lot every game. Whether it be, even recently, of course, where some people are going Archon drop again, but then there's still some charge lot Archon pressure, but it was always like Stargate into Archon charge lot. Recently, though, there has been Zest. He's made it to the finals of GSL. He's the leading Protoss player in the world, or one of them at the moment, and he's gone this 2 Stargate Phoenix build, which is everywhere on the ladder right now. So,
certainly is.
That's kind of changed things up, because that partly has been so successful because people are blindly building roaches, right? The Phoenix comes out, you don't know what's behind it. You build 10 roaches for safety, out come 10 Phoenix, and you're like, the roaches don't shoot up. This isn't great. So I wonder, we've seen some players rushing for Hydralisks again in this meta to try and take advantage of that. Others playing like a very Queen-heavy style. In general, some Zerg players have been very, I think afraid to just keep committing to roaches blindly. So how Crimson deals with this meta and how Probe approaches it, and if he starts doing that 2 Stargate Phoenix, I am very eager to see.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Like, if you do go for that 2 Stargate Phoenix, you can just go full Serral and start to punish them for it by attacking with a big Floodlings and Roaches. This map's a little bit tougher for that, but it certainly can be done. Probe, though, if we're talking about just the player rather than the matchup, he has been loving just that Adept Oracle style that's fallen out of fashion a little bit, but he's just... really, every time I see Probe play a ZVP lately, he's been getting Resonating Glaives. He's been making, maybe 5 or 6 Adepts and being very, very annoying, harassing bases, hitting drone lines, and then getting multiple Oracles up behind that, which is a couple metas worth of style PvZ ago.
I think it's a cool build to mix in, but yeah, I think at IEM Sydney, Probe was predictable with it, and he was doing some really strange things. I was very critical because he was going for glaives sometimes like after taking a 3rd base, and it was like the Adept phase was over, but he was kind of playing so overly safe. And what I want to see here from Probe is a more aggressive Probe. I want to see a more pointed pressure into macro behind it. I don't want to see him just going to this default of I need to get Adepts and not necessarily use them that aggressively every game. So definitely got my eyes on what he's got planned for the next little while. Already a few Adepts and Oracle making its way across the map. Crimson well prepared for now. But Queens aren't really kind of on the edges, so the Oracle might grab a drone or two. Ooh! Just as they pop out. That's such bad timing for Crimson.
Very unfortunate, and a lucky catch there for Probe as well, catching that drone transfer. And it's not for Phoenix after this. There's that Twilight Council going down for Probe with the robotics facility. So this is starting to shape up to look like that drop play with, you know, Charged Lot and a Warp Prism and a couple Archons. So, bit of a pause here from Crimson. I'm not sure what his problem is just yet. I'm sure he'll let us know. It's an online tournament, obviously, so we have to rely on him to let us know. We can't just walk over to his PC.
I mean, this is something where I like what you said there. It looks like, you know, Probe just going to that Charged Archon. I think this is such a solid way to play, right? This didn't get completely figured out. It's just Zerg's got comfortable with it. And as we see, you know, Protoss often being the aggressor, Zerg being the defender at this level of PvC anyway, you know, for the standard style at least. You see Zergs get comfortable against something, and that the players pressuring or attacking against the Zergs change it up, right? This is like this cycle we go through, where if a Zerg knows what's coming every game, they really get in their comfort zone and feel a lot stronger. But speaking of knowing what's coming, he definitely doesn't know about the 4 extra gateways going down in the main base. It's going to be the 6-gate Charged Archon variation. This is a really powerful one. I love it. I think it's really powerful because it just hits this middle ground of getting a third up behind it usually, but you're actually hitting with this kind of very powerful unit set that demands a large approach from the Zerg. And you know what? There's no Roach in Maynard. He's going just for Banelings and melee upgrades.
Yeah, those Banelings are going to be nice against those Zealots, and of course the Lings with that +1 attack do a little bit more damage, but against Archons and Charge Lots, it is kind of doesn't matter what the upgrades of the Lings are, unless they're 2-2 with a, you know, or 3-3 with Adrenal. They kind of aren't going to trade very well against Archons.
Yeah, those Archons, Zealot splits as well, massive. You know, Banelings, technically, you think of a ball of Zealots, you think of a ball of Banelings, you go, yeah, Banelings are good versus this unit. You add a bit of high-level micro, which I'm sure Probe will be doing with spreading Zealots out. Suddenly, Banelings look kind of silly. A suicide unit which can't connect to clumped up units does not do that well. Oh, wow.
Crimson's making his Banelings not defensively here. He's getting aggressive, so this is going to get weird.
Oh, man, there's so many Queens and a Spine in the main. That's easily going to stop the Archon drop. If he loses the Archon drop, Probe's out of this game 100%. Even if he doesn't, this is so scary. He only spots it now. Probe, he hasn't reacted in time. There's no sentry, and the wall is down. Oh, my gosh, he's instantly recalled his Prism, but the Probes are exposed. He's got to get those Archons on top of those Banelings right now. The Archons trying to protect. Oh, the Zealots are going to save them. The Banelings all go down. Great micro. Great response by Probe under pressure.
Yeah, great saves from Probe. He is starting to lose some more of those Probes now, but the Archons are still alive. Zealots are coming home as well. And yes, he's depowered these gateways, but there is still a fair bit of army remaining here for Probe, and he can turn up the aggression on the other side of the map once he's cleaned it up.
Yeah, I mean, units lost tab tells the story. It's 525 units lost resources for Probe, over 2,000 for Crimson. If he got the Probes, you know, he finds the mark. But that was such a great call by Probe. Instant recall on the Prism was the real secret to that defense. Instantly pulled his Zealots home. And now Probe's just like, hey, my third's like nicely saturated. I'm in a good position. I'm going to go counter pressure you. Send the Archons over. Good reaction, though, on canceling that warp. And he's just going to go straight in the main. That's a very ballsy maneuver. Probe is so keen to get the aggression on.
And if that Prism gets those Charge Lots warped out, he can get rid of that Queen and keep that Prism alive. Spinecrawler's burrowing, so it's not helping him out just yet. The Archons and Zealots are starting to tear apart the main of Crimson, but he's also being hit at a third base. Looks like some other Charge Lots heading on in there.
Very nice pressure here from Probe. Yeah, drops the Archons back on the fourth at the same time. The Zealots in the main actually haven't been dealt with. If he left his Archons there, I think he could just maybe even win the game right now, but he's already up about 15-20 workers. That fourth base getting dangerously low. The Zealots in the main and just harvesting these drones. Oh my lord.
Great multi-pronged aggression here from Probe. He's hitting Crimson in 3 places at once, even microing his Zealots to get less surface area in the main. It kills the fourth, not a cancel at all. That's 300 minerals in the toilet for Crimson as he loses 8 drones for salt in the wounds for the Zerg. He's in a terrible spot economically. The Protoss is enjoying a third Nexus and 74 probes. That's almost too many probes for this many bases.
Zealot trying to kill itself on the other. Oh, the left-hand side of that Probe actually just had one of his Zealots kill one of his other Zealots. I think he thought it was a changeling and he A-clicked it. So this Zealot just sat there for like a good 20 seconds killing his friend who just stood there like a champ.
There's been a few times where I've like shot a Marine and gone, oh, sorry, mate. I didn't mean to. Like, it just takes a bit of hit points. It goes, dude, what the hell?
It's like the Chopper movie. It's like, I'm sorry, bro. Sorry. It's like,
you carrying on, huh? We got this attempt at a Ling run by here from Crimson. There was only 2 Lings, so it looked like he more wanted to get a scout on what's going on more than do damage. 2 Lings on their own aren't too hard to deal with for the Protoss, but Probe is going to that comfortable position. He has all these probes. He's getting a second robotics facility for double immortal production. He's going to try and get into the main base again by with Crimson, but he has Queens in position, and the Prism's already very damaged. Late reaction for Probe.
Hot drop on top of the Queens. Nice defense here by Crimson. Needs a few more of these to get back in a comfortable position in this game. 58 drones versus 74 probes. This is a situation we often see. You know, it's not quite a dead man standing, but it's definitely a hard position for Crimson. Basically, you can't really catch up in workers at this point. I feel like your only choice is to stay low on the workers, mass up a big army, and then just you've got to try and slide some banelings into the mineral lines. That's pretty much your best chance. Is you've got to kind of catch them out, get banelings in the High Templar on top of the High Templar and the Chaos, get banelings in the mineral lines, and just dodge storms. If you eat 1 or 2 bad storms, the game's over. You just don't have the numbers, you don't have the material. But look at the defense from Probe. Look at his third. There's like 4 cannons, 2 stasis traps, and a High Templar, and then he's got cannons and batteries going up on the 4th as well. Like this is just insane. He's so well prepared for anything Crimson throws at him. Look at the scouting as well. Zealots all over the map. We've got hallucinated Phoenixes. Probe's map vision is so good right now.
He's playing incredibly well. We were like wondering what his form's like at the moment, but on the back of Psystorm Cup, he is looking very clean here against Crimson, who really turned up the aggression in the early stages, but hasn't been able to stop Probe from doing damage to him all game long. And Probe is at that 4th base. Crimson trying to hit in several places at once. His Lings get cleaned up on the other side. He's got a big Baneling morph with a lot of Hydras heading towards that 3rd base. But Probe with all these cannons, charge lots, and stasis wards catches a few of those Banelings. He still has more stasis wards where that came from. So the Banelings are just moving in here on a move command. The Hydras are engaging, but in comes Probe with another army from the north.
Huge Psystorms at the start of that battle. The 2 High Templar just totally shredding those Hydras. They all got in the deep orange, and as the rest of Probe's army comes in, he's like, yep, you took down that one army. It was about 1/4 of my total force. The rest comes in, shuts it down, and now Probe has pretty much got this one in the bag. A very, very clean game from Probe. And, you know, it's crazy because it looks like he didn't have to do anything special, but I cannot stress enough how big that instant recall and quick Probe pool was against the Baneling boss.
He would have died.
Yeah, he could have just lost everything there.
Yeah, very, very quick decision-making there. Makes the difference between a good player and a great player. Ling's running by into the main base from Probe, but he just has a quick warp in there of Zealots. They'll be able to clean that up. And I mean, we are seeing a Zerg here that's got Lingbane Hydra against Archons and Immortals with double robotics facilities making them out. If you don't have Lurkers, you don't have a Spire with a bunch of Mutas in the air or anything like that, I just feel like you can't stop this army.
Yeah, this is really tough. There's not Warp Prism, you know, supporting the army here right now, so it is just kind of like you don't want to overcommit as Probe, you just want to poke in and out. Check it out. Zealots are going to go down the right-hand side, so he creates a problem on the left-hand side with this army without overcommitting. Zealots are going to hit that top-hand side base, and Crimson's just going to get bled out here while Probe continues to expand, continues to just have a gigantic economy. And it goes from hard to worse for Crimson as the fleet beacon goes down, and there'll be a carrier transition on the way behind it. You know, Probe kind of reminds me of Harston a lot in how he plays, in that he gets way ahead, but he doesn't take chances. Once he's ahead against Zerg, he's like, no, I'm not going to just headbutt on creep. Attack in multiple areas, and when the Zerg spread thin, that's the only time he's actually going to force the issue. Pushes through here and forces that GG. Very well played by Probe.
Very clean PvZ, and then if he's looking that good at the moment in all of the other matchups, I can see him really decimating this bracket. I mean, in the age-old words of Artosis, went ahead, get further ahead, and Probe certainly did that all game long.
Oh, yeah. A very clean opening from the start. He actually was behind in workers against Crimson for, I believe it was about 23 seconds in this game, looking at the workers graph after the game. So it's one of those things where he was like ahead, and like obviously Crimson committed that huge Ling Bane. And that's one of the scary things about these tournament situations is, you know, there's always this moment where players are going to throw out this thing you'd never see on ladder. Who randomly makes like 15 Banelings and busts your wall right as your Archon drops hitting after Stargate play? It's like, it's very bizarre. You haven't played against it a lot. It's your ability to adapt to these crazy sort of very aggressive kind of gambly almost attacks on the fly. That's what makes you a good tournament player. Good to see Probe's on point. Starts off strong in this series. And yeah, so far he's looking really, really good.
And we're heading to Lost and Found for our next map here. A lot of people loving this map, so we're going to see it a lot in series. It's kind of like, we have Catalyst still and we have Acid Plant still, so a lot of our best of threes are going to involve those maps. We're going to be seeing like Lost and Found. Lost and Found is kind of like the new Blackpink, where no one seems to hate it. They're just like, yeah, I'll play that map. No strong feeling towards or against.
Yeah, it's interesting to kind of see how the maps get used, and I always love it when we see Redshift slide into the series a little bit more. I love to see Dreamcatcher. That map always excites me a lot as well. But 16-bit's very cool. I always think about that finals game at Austin between semifinals, between Mana and Special on 16-bit. I think was the highlight of WCS Austin, with just like crazy back and forth, like drops and disruptors and counterattacks all over the place.
Yeah. I remember seeing Dreamcatcher and going, wow, this map's weird. I don't know if I like this one. But even though I still feel like I'm undecided, when I think about it and I sit there and actually think about it, my games on Dreamcatcher have been really fun. Yeah,
it's actually, I always, for me, as someone who I like action more than anything else in the games. I love movement.
Same, that's why I play Bio. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at the terrain on Dreamcatcher, right? There's so many chokes, these weird like little pathways and stuff. Reminds me a lot of Terraform, and there was another one that was very similar from the same map maker later on. Interloper. Yeah, but you also got more spread out bases, right? So anything that forces you to be more spread for your expansions is basically like, well, you need to like fight for the map. Like you can't just like sit back in your corner of the map, right? And that creates more action and more fighting. So it is very cool to see that more and more. I think even our standard maps are moving more towards the position of as you get a fourth and as you get a fifth, you get a little bit more spread. Even on maps like Lost and Found, you start having to kind of expand down both sides of the map. So going to be interesting to see how this one goes. I think Protoss players pretty happy defending straight up Hydra Bane on this map. But definitely, if the Zerg can get a bit more momentum, maybe pull out a cheeky Nidus on top of the Robo or something like that, there's many cards the Zerg player can play.
Certainly. We need a little bit of time there to get the lobby set up, but we are good to go. The players are ready and the countdown has begun. Will Probe close us out with a 2-0, or will Crimson pull his socks up and tie this one up? I know Crimson has it in him, but it's got to be a little bit disheartening to have so many things going for you with a big attack in game number one and just having a Protoss walk over you after that. Like, it actually felt like Crimson couldn't do anything against a player as solid as Probe in that game.
Yeah, I mean, he rolled the dice hard, but he's got another chance here. I don't mind a player who is, willing to take a little bit of a risk in the game. Down here in the bottom left-hand side, representing Sif, it is Crimson.
And the top right, representing Legacy Esports, one of the biggest teams in all of Oceania, this is Probe. And actually, Legacy are picking up a few more StarCraft players as well. And said added to the roster. He got to go internationally for Austin after qualifying at IM Sydney. One of the most insanely electrifying and best personalities in our region as well. Gotta love that NXZ passion. In fact, he was the guy that 2-1'd Probe to start off our first series of the day at IM Sydney, which really got everyone's blood pumping.
Oh, yeah. Great reaction gifs immediately created of him fist bumping in the air and that sort of stuff. Then it was a hard loss for Probe, but it excites me for someone who's been there playing down in the trenches with these guys, and I've had many hard losses. Definitely the way you could characterize my career is how many times can you lose a tournament. I think Probe's kind of at that point where it's like, we're like, Probe's number one, in Australia, he's really good. And then like when he loses, we're like, oh, suddenly it's like, oh, is Probe that good anymore? Like, oh, is he gonna slump? Like, and there's like a rebounding, right, effect where when the player like has a bad performance and they get frustrated and they get angry and they like work twice as hard. And that's always like the really exciting thing, when they come back the next tournament, they just destroy everybody.
That is the double-edged sword of being the best player, right? Like if Cyril, for instance, doesn't make a top 8 in a WCS, like say Valencia comes around, Cyril makes it to round of 16 and just loses in a best of 5 against someone. And, Cyril bleeds. He can lose, even though he's insanely favored against most people. He can lose a series. He has before.
Yeah.
And if that happens, people are like, oh my God, like it'll instantly happen. I know you, StarCraft community. Don't you look at me. Don't you tell me that you won't say it. You will say it. You're like, oh, what? Is Cyril in a slump right now? No, you gotta like suck for a year to be in a slump. You can't just lose in one tournament and be in a slump. Like, come on now.
Yeah, we talk about Zest slumping because he makes the finals once every 2 years. You know, he wins the GSL championship or something. But definitely,
yeah.
you know, a little slip up here or there in one qualifier. Definitely not a slump just yet, but something where I think Probe is eager to prove that he is still the absolute top of the scene. He deserves this #1 seed going into these open qualifiers. You know, Probe doesn't always have to play open qualifiers. A lot of the time, he's seeded in from the previous season into the second stage. Of course, which will play out tomorrow. But here we go, playing against Crimson. And I think we're seeing good balanced play from Probe, right? If you're going to play safe because you're worried about crazy all-ins and things, the play we saw last game was amazing. You know, you go Phoenix, you go Oracle, you go for an Archon drop, bam, instant split-second reaction to what is a very surprising and dangerous attack. And he deals with it without overcommitting. Continues playing a very straightforward game plan, but just executed crisply, cleanly, and well. So I like what we saw in that last game. It looks like it is going to be the fast Adepts this time around, though. Notice how there's a very fast Twilight in the back. We're going to see two more Gateways come down. Might squeeze an Oracle out after this. Actually, could be Chargelots as well, right? With such a fast Twilight. Is he going to
definitely could. He's very, very close. Doesn't spot it in the end there. Very close to spotting it, but doesn't see it.
Does see that there's no Oracle building, though, so that could be a tell, but Crimson's actually going for a very fast lair, and that tells me he's rushing to Hydras, which can be really bad against a fast Adept or Chargelot timing, and with the gases going down, yeah, it looks like it will be a Glaive starting up here. So this is Probe looking to hit a surprising attack, probably going to be about 9 Adepts with Resonating Glaives, join up with the Oracle or 2 as well. Yep. Very hard to stop with just Zerglings. So I think Crimson here playing with no extra Queens right now, just 4 Queens. He needs to get Hydras out so fast to be able to defend this.
I agree with you, but this is vintage Probe here. This is the style that I was talking about in Game 1, where he loves to get, you know, a bunch of Adepts out, get a War Prism out, just have a lot of Adepts with Resonating Glaives with the Oracles as a support. He did get a second Oracle in the end, with Lynx looking for a run by, but the Adepts are here, and there's 2 of them, and they can deal with a lot of Lynx. No shield battery needed.
Where is that Hydra Den? Only now going down here. I feel like the seconds are ticking. You know, there's like one of these things. You're like, okay, yeah, there's a third and a Robo going down and there's probing. It's not like Probe's going all in, but it is scary as these Adepts start moving across the map. Oracle comes in and grabs a few kills there, and, you know, Probe is definitely getting a few more Adepts. 8 Adepts out, and they're going to push out, and that's a scary timing attack. The Spine Crawler does nothing against this. Crimson totally misreading the play. The Spine in the main, he clearly wants to kind of defend the Archon drop with that. That's not what he's up against here. These Adepts are very dangerous right now.
They certainly are, and he doesn't actually have a whole lot of supply to work with either. No Overlord on the way. He's making as many Lings as he can, but Lings aren't exactly what you want against a ball of Adepts like this with Resonating Glaives. They are going to get one of them before the Shade finishes, but that's a very, very difficult position for the Zerg to dig the Protoss out of.
Yeah, I mean, this is already a decent trade for Probe. I gotta say, Crimson did a good job with this early surround. But yeah, this is where the danger comes in. Even with just 4 Adepts left, a bit of focus fire, and it's like, uh-oh, goodbye worker line. You know, these Queens just do so little damage. Finally, it gets cleaned up, but not before a ton of Zerglings go down and 8 drones as well. So I think that was a very successful pressure for Probe. He's got the 3rd up now. He's adding sentries. 5 more Gateways. Are we going to see... Oh, it's going to be an Immortal Adept sentry timing. He's going to hit him with a big, heavy pressure. And, I mean, Crimson's building Hydras, but if he builds even just 1 big round of drones, I don't think he'll have the firepower to stop this. And right now, 0 vision on the map for Crimson. I don't know how he's going to get wind of this. I feel like he's playing in the dark right now.
Oh, man, it's the 2018 version of the Soul Train, and it's heading across the map right now. Prism coming here with a bunch of sentries, and he's going to have a big Adept warp in here. Crimson is just making units. He hasn't gone for that big drone, that big droning that you were speaking of. Somehow he's actually he's making a lot of Lings, and maybe he can hold here.
Yeah, I think he was planning to do his own attack. It's still going to be very close. It all comes down to the force fields. I love the hallucination. If he sees the Hydra count, and he does, immediately I think Probe should think about starting a Templar Archives and Storm behind this. I think he realizes with no Banelings, maybe he'll just commit. The Baneling Nest is not quite finished yet, and with that Adept count coming in, he might even be able to just jump on top. Guardian Shield, Adepts with Resonating Glaives, very powerful force against pure Hydra Zergling.
Well, if he can get these Banelings up, that's certainly going to help against these Adepts. Of course, the Sentry force fields are a little bit dangerous. He doesn't want to overcommit against Protoss with that many force fields. The robotics base going down. No Templar Archives. Is he going to go for Colossus?
Oh yeah, second Robo as well. So Colossus, I think this is a good call because he's got so many sentries. And he says, oh man, I really wanted to push it and just kill you, but I see that you just don't seem to have that many workers. Your army's so big right now. Probe's like, look, this is a mistake. He's looking for a fourth. He checked the top, his hallucination checked the bottom, and he's like, you still don't have a fourth started. Probe is realizing there is no reason to press in right now. That would be playing into your hands. You're the one who actually wants to be attacking me. So if I fight on creep, that's really dumb. So Probe splits off some Adepts in the Prism. He's still sharking around. He's got to be careful with the force fields.
Oh man, big attack here from Crimson. The force field do cut off most of those Lings and Banes, but Probe loses a lot of his army here. Mainly the sentries dying. And that's actually a good trade for Crimson.
All Banelings just waddling their way through, getting like 4 or 5 of the sentries. The Adept drop in the main is going to try and buy some time. That Spine and Spore going to come in handy here. Probe, you don't want to lose that Warp Prism. But there we go. If he just fires down his drones, that's going to be a very nice little bit of pressure to buy some time. Colossi aren't out yet. He's not using his second Robo, just starting it up now. Probe with a mostly Adept force. Oh, this is scary. The Stasis Trap going to go off on a few Zerglings. It's not going to buy much time here.
Oh, this is time for Crimson. He doesn't have Baneling speed, but he is trying to break on through. With these Hydras with +1 attack, they are doing so much damage to the Gateway heavy force of Probe. It's going to be all up to these Colossi to try and hold on with the Gateway units to try and slow things down. A Probe pull off the line here. Ling's actually nearly killing that Colossus, but the Probes keep the Colossus alive. The Colossus, without Static Thermal Lance, is doing a lot of damage to these Hydras. Can Probe hold on both counts?
Oh, he does lose that Colossi. He's done so much worker damage on the other side of the map with his Adepts, but he's getting shredded on the third right now. And Probe, losing those sentries, not being able to force field this off was actually so bad for Probe. And it looks like Crimson able to bust through. He only had 38 workers. Probe, of course, was focusing on trying to pull Crimson home. He said, look, if I focus down drones with these Adepts, you're going to have to turn around, maybe buy myself some time. Crimson didn't blink. He was like, nah, straight across the map. He went in and got up that ramp. And I feel like if Probe could have force fielded that ramp, got the Colossi out with the sentries and the Adepts, gets maybe even a second Colossi out, suddenly Probe's still in that game. Looking at it in hindsight, maybe he could have even given up his third base because Crimson's economy was so bad. But Crimson, I think, just being so decisive there, snatches a win, and really impressive from Crimson. I'm very impressed that he managed to finish that off.
Yeah, game one looked like it sort of fell out of his hands. Like, the spaghetti started to fall out of his pockets after that Ling Bane bust. Didn't get the damage that he wanted. He lost so many resources and was really playing on the back foot after that. Took a lot more drone damage than he wanted because his army wasn't at home. It was dead. It was being sent straight to hell like most Ling Bane armies do. And it's and Probe just really started to snowball out of control in game one. But Crimson showing us in game two that he absolutely has the skills to fight back against the region's strongest player, and that's really, really comforting as we get into game three. It's got me excited. I'm starting to feel a little bit wiggly and jiggly here, Pig.
Yeah,
game three.
That was really well done. I was very kind of critical, I guess, about the rushing to Hydras against like Adepts, but he actually had enough Zerglings with melee, so he did actually defend quite well against that. And the fact that Crimson was going for a very aggressive build against Probe's aggressive build, I thought Probe was playing flawlessly. It was like, oh, cool. I'm just like going to keep sharking around. And I was like, maybe he's staying a bit too long, but he's got force fields. Probe's an awesome player. He'll be fine. And then the little gap in the force fields, you're like, oh, he's not going to be fine. Losing 4 high energy sentries is so bad, right? When you're trying to swap into the Colossi. And it was like a 55 drone commitment. Crimson never finished droning his third. He didn't go for a fourth base until very, very late. And it was very all in from him. But Probe caught just a little bit, I think, under-respecting Crimson's army, under-respecting the counter-push, and Crimson able to just push through. So GG, well played. Next map is going to be Catalyst, a map we've seen many, many awesome ZVP games on. Can't wait for this one.
I'm really, really pumped for this one. Catalyst is, I think, some of my best PVCs I've ever seen in my whole life have been on this map. A lot of them back in like IM Katowice days on GSL as well have been pretty incredible. I am down with it. Will Probe close this out, or will Crimson, the underdog, fight back here? It's weird to call Crimson an underdog, but he certainly, in my eyes, still is against Probe. And this is the man in question. In the bottom right, he is SYF's Crimson.
fitting color for player named Crimson. And of course, this opponent up here in the top left-hand side in the blue, Protoss player representing Legacy. It is Probe.
Certainly is. Someone who I would still favor in the series, even though he lost game 2. It was a very, very close hold in that in game 2 against Crimson. If he had that second Colossus, if like the production times and the robotics facilities were closer and you had 2 Colossi instead of 1, I feel like it would have made all the difference there. Also, extended thermal lance not being done. Just a few things that just, if those extra second or 2 was there, then it would have actually been a hold for Probe.
Absolutely. And we are going to see Crimson here with the 16 hatch, just going 1 supply early on the hatchery. Normally that's to stop the pylon block going down if the Probe were to go across the map earlier, but Probe isn't doing that. He's just doing like a safe gateway scout to check there's no early pool. Catalyst, quite a short map, so does want to make sure that's not the case. And he's going to, of course, see the gas and pool behind it. And I love this new pool placement. It's just like a spawning pool to see if like a warp prism comes in. It's also funny. We actually saw like in game 1, there was like a point where the Archon started fighting the spawning pool when Probe was like multi-pronging, and I'm like, hey, that spawning pool, it's like a distraction spawning pool. If you're not watching your units and you're doing multiple things, sometimes your Zealots, your Archons will kind of waste time attacking it. So it's just a cute little way to get a bit of extra vision around the Zerg's base.
Indeed. I was wondering, like when I first started to see this happening, what is the purpose of having that spawning pool there? Because I'm used to Zergs closing the structures around their hatchery to try and slow it, like to try and have less paths into their mineral line, I guess. Kind of like how Protoss, when they're up against Reapers, they like to have their cyber core and pylon and gateway like around their nexus in the main. But we see Probe actually going for the wall off here. If he goes for the wall off in the natural and also try and get that structure up in the main, he should be able to have his own spotter structures up. He hasn't been going for that own. A lot of Protosses go for that Stalker to push back the Overlord. He really just goes, nah, I'm going to get a Phoenix. I'll push that away. Like, you can scout my wall. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think it's a nice way to play. And, we always see him delay the Warp Gate research here, or at least he does in this game, to get that Stargate out a little bit faster. Adept immediately going to scout. His Probe has already kind of checked the third. The Zerglings have chased it off. And this is just so typical for this early phase. Neither player trying anything fancy here. No Zerglings trying to sneak around the edge of the map or anything. Crimson's just going to defend on creep, and probably going to be heading into a third Queen in just a moment and trying to defend these Adepts. I wouldn't mind like a Charge Lot all in or something like that from Probe, considering how Crimson's playing, but knowing Probe, I think he's just going to be like, nope, same as game 1. Phoenix, Oracle, Archon drop, 6-gate Charge Lot Archon pressure while macroing up a third, adding upgrades and Storm. Like that is I think how Probe will approach this, because I know Probe. He feels he's the stronger player, doesn't want to take any chances here in a deciding game of a series.
I think that's why he went with what he went for in game 2 as well, because it's so classic Probe that it's something that he's done 1,000 more times than that modern way of playing BVZ with that Archon Templar drop. Sees that Stargate, sees it spinning, and sees that there is a second, or rather an Oracle on the way here for Probe post Phoenix. And the most important thing with the Zerg is like to see whether or not a second Stargate is going down.
Yeah.
But what are the big signs for Zerg, whether or not he's going to see that second Stargate get dropped?
It's one of the hardest things really to recognize. It's just very, very difficult to be sure. Seeing a third gateway at the front kind of points to it not being that style. As often they'd only have like 2 gateways for the double Stargate, but there's so many different ways of getting to it. It really is just based player by player. So I think as the Zerg, it's more something you just kind of keeping an eye on how many units they're building. You can try to get an Overseer Scout in later. What's really interesting though from Crimson is just how fast he's gone for the Evolution Chamber in the Roach Warren. Because he scouted Stargate, and that's a very fast +1 range, and this is a pretty damn quick lair as well. So I feel like Crimson's going to be going a very quick Roach speed, and maybe preparing for just a huge Roach bust. This could be a great way to counterattack, following up the pressure, but we've already got 2 Robos down. And this may be Probe kind of realizing that there is a threat of a very fast Roach push or something like that, or maybe it's just his pre-planned follow-up, but definitely it's a very interesting twist on what we normally see in the matchup.
And Crimson hasn't seen this just yet, so these roaches that he commits to might actually get completely negated by the multiple immortals that are certainly in the pipeline here for Probe. Spore Crawler just hidden under those overlords there from Crimson. Are going to get some shots off on those oracles, but they do get a queen, and they're getting a few more drones here, and most importantly, they're still alive. So nice little move there from Probe. That's a threat that Crimson has to constantly be aware of.
That was pretty damn awesome. We've already got Immortal production on the way, Forge and Twilight as well. So it's like kind of delayed upgrades, but the Immortals are like maximum safety versus roaches. And what we've got now for Crimson is like, you know, there's a few Zerglings, but this third is impenetrable. 2 Adepts, a Sentry, and a Shield Battery.
Yeah, good luck, have fun.
Yeah, this is like almost borderline 2 safe play from Probe. He's had 3 Adepts in the wall the whole time. He's like, well, I don't need 1 unit in the wall. Let's have 3. Like, there's no way anything's going to randomly kill me. I like it. It's just mega safe. Crimson is being forced into the macro game. He's droning up. He's equal in workers. But, you know, you would prefer to be a little bit ahead, at least at one of these points. Crimson's going to have nice upgrade timings. He's going to have, like, a nice timing on his Hydras and tech, right? Because I talked about that fast lair, the fast Evo. But he's just not going to have the overwhelming swarm. So maybe something like a fast Ravager Hydra timing, maybe a fast Lurker timing. I don't see Crimson taking this to the 80, 85 drone, really hefty macro game. I think he's got to do something aggressive with all of this tech and upgrades that he's built up into.
I certainly agree with you there. We're actually going to have a very beefy Zerg army coming up here, and normally Zerg armies are a little bit flimsy and a little bit lightweight, but a bunch of roaches with +1 attack, speed, and a bunch of Hydras behind them is very, very powerful. The roaches can deal with a few storms, but the Hydras and the roaches together really are afraid of multiple immortals. Like a big number of immortals can actually collapse this army and shred it to pieces.
Yeah.
Probe is going for the Archon follow-up with a charge as well, as kind of expected.
And it is a very powerful attack, because you're going to, basically what you do is, as you move out, which Crimson's about to do, because he's got the double upgrades on the Hydras. Now, actually, no, he doesn't have the movement speed. So he's going to move out soon, but he's not like ready necessarily to commit just yet. But what you do is you reinforce almost pure Zergling, and you actually make Ravages. But interestingly, Crimson hasn't actually got that movement speed upgrade going on the Hydras. I think that might be a crucial mistake here. You really want that to finish during this push. And no Ravages to break force fields either. Seeing that sentry count, he needs Ravages to make this push work. So
I certainly agree with you there.
Yeah, he's got to be able to break those force fields. The double battery is beautiful.
Three batteries even, if you count the one from the mineral line. And we have got a big force field wall here from Probe, and he's just bringing everything to defend here. The attack from Crimson looking very impotent to start things off with.
Yeah, I mean, the double robo production is huge. You're not used to there being that many immortals, especially not with that many shield batteries at this moment. Finally, the batteries are out of mana. The immortal's starting to take some damage. That one in the mineral line, though, doing so much to heal that immortal. It just won't go down, living up to its namesake. And we've even got a High Templar gathering energy in the back. With this big Zealot warp in, these red hit point immortals just barely surviving. Crimson is going to feel his heart sink, because when you see all those valuable Protoss units survive and start regenerating their shields, their hardened barrier is going to come off cooldown, and that's going to be useful in the next fight. And you saw High Templar in the back of that fight.
Ooh,
Man,
yeah.
57 drone Hydra Roach does not do well against Immortal Storm, and Storm is now on the field.
It certainly is, and the High Templar are just getting enough juice to be able to bring that bad weather in for Crimson, who still hasn't got muscular augments for those Hydras. They're still a little bit slow, snaking on that off creep here. So reinforcing with Hydras is even tough. He's making a bunch more Lings here, and Roaches. Both of those units have speed, but Probe's just pushing him way back away from his third.
Yep. It's a nasty position here for Crimson. I think you've got to kind of pull back, keep massing units, and look for the beautiful surround is going to be the thing. Like, just the surprising number of Roaches and Hydras. You know, as a Protoss, you think, oh, he's behind, he's got to catch up in workers. Crimson's not doing that. He's got a fourth, but he's not droning it. He's just massing units, and he's just looking for an angle. A nice Roach Link counter on the natural wall. Probe does have 2 Immortals about to pop, though. Those are going to deal pretty well with that.
Yeah, they should do. The Lings can actually do a little bit against those Immortals, but the Immortals, if they target fire, those Roaches can absolutely clean that up. And a warp in of charge lots as well, just to seal the deal here. Oh, that third base is locked down, Crimson. Nothing happening there. Those Roaches getting deflected almost completely here, doing very minimal damage. And Probe still has an army. It looks like he's warping in down to the bottom left-hand side for a charge lot run by Vintage Probe here, looking to hit in one place while hitting the other at the same time.
Yeah, good town portal scroll usage there from Probe. Make sure he gets home to defend the Roach counter. Very good use of the recall, of course. Something that's very frustrating when the Zerg says, hey, isn't that army across the other side of the map? Nuh-uh, it's all here.
Those storms, though. Crimson is getting destroyed. Oh, my God.
Oh, that is not the sort of bath you want to have. That is gross. GG, well played. Probe crushes through 2-1 there. I think very decisive despite the scoreline. Probe is in good form. He is looking amazing, and that takes him through to the I believe that's the that's the finals of the upper bracket. He's going to be waiting there for the winner of Yours and Hut. That's amazing.
Awesome. And I imagine Yours and Hut's probably coming up next. That is a very, very exciting moment here for Probe, who is going to have a very nice seeding coming into tomorrow already. He doesn't have to worry about that losers bracket at all at the moment. Of course, he could lose the winners final and get knocked back down and have to come back for fight for that grand final spot. But this has been pretty exciting, man. That series was very, very fun. Crimson fighting a lot harder than I'm used to seeing. Like, even though Crimson went down that series, he's looking better than ever.
Good one, Maynard. Oh, what's up, guys? Oh, sorry. You can keep talking. I'll just hang out. It's nice to be here. That was a good game, guys. I thoroughly enjoyed that series. Very close. It was so close at one point in that last game where the Hydras almost broke through.
My man.
Yeah, talk to us about that series, Moonglade. That was your favorite moment, the whole thing?
I think so. Well, yes, I'm gonna say so. I was kind of like flicking between like Twitch chat and maybe some other web pages and also that game, and I think that was my favorite part.
I think you especially enjoy Colossi falling, I'm sure. As someone who played a lot in Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm, where Protoss was just Colossi and Sentries, I'm sure it gives you some Zergy happiness in your heart to see those Colossi good tumbling down.
When it's like 3 Hydras and 2 Lings versus a unupgraded Colossus and it goes down. It's beautiful.
Do you know what I love seeing sometimes? When like a bowl of Lings kills Colossus. You don't see that every day.
It gets around and it just takes it down. It's the way
it's like trying to go like up and down like a cliff or something. There's like Lings on both sides, and you just like it's this awkward dance. It's like, nah, there's no escape, buddy.
We're seeing just to talk about the bracket real quick. Risky is in the losers round 5 at the moment, so he is still alive for all you Risky fans out there.
Hanging in there, man. Looks like he might be up against Fury or Igas next as well.
Yeah, so potentially a ZVZ or a ZVT. I think Fury is a Terran from memory. I would favor Igas against Fury. Fury's pretty solid, but Igas is Igas. So I think that might be a ZVZ rocking up there. I wonder if Igas goes like 13-12 or something to try and punish that ping.
Wait, is Fury Zerg? I was thinking Fury was Terran for a second there. Am I getting confused?
I did say that he's Terran.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I did say that.
Maynard was... He did say it was Terran.
Right, sorry. You meant verse Risky 13-12.
Yeah,
I'm good at following conversations.
I'm saying I was wondering. I was like, if Igas rolls up against Risky, does he, try and use that ping advantage?
Yeah. I think definitely Igas might, but I kind of imagine, like Igas was notorious back in the day. I'm sure Andy can attest to this, where it's like, what's Igas going to do? And it's like, well, there's going to be a command center, and there's going to be another command center. Yep. There's going to be a siege tank on the high ground.
He was never much for variety, old Terran Igas, I got to say.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like it kind of translated over to his Zerg as well, where he definitely has his macro ways. Oh, and that's fine. That's fine. But you got to spice things up sometimes.
I think it'll be, ZVZ. That's honestly, I just can't wait to see Risky playing ZVZ and how he goes about it. Do you play just a gasless wall off double Evo with a Roach Warren and be like, I'm skipping the Baneling phase. I'm not doing that. Like, I think it's like the hardest decision as a Zerg player is like how you play with that amount of ping, and also what maps you try to play to kind of get around that, right? Because like you're not going to be playing Darkness Sanctuary with 400 ping, the map where everyone goes like mutas and upgraded Zerglings. So I'm just excited. I really hope we get to cast some Risky ZVZ at some point today.
Yeah, I wonder if he's actually played any ZVZ yet, because I don't think he has. He got looks like a default win against Wally.
Oh, Wally forfeited that match.
Apparently Wally had to go to work, so.
And he took down Frustration 2-1, so that's ZVP.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what race Fight is.
Yeah, I don't, unless that's Phyto, the old Protoss player. He's